Hello, Laura.
Hello, Steph.
Happy post solstice.
Happy almost July.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I cannot believe the year is almost halfway over, and we have a lot to cover today. We are going to dive into the astrology of July, everything you need to know for your zodiac sign, the exciting dates, the scary dates, and everything in between.
Mhm.
But first, Laura, why don't you tell us what do you have going on in your world?
I am finally leading a how to manifest workshop on it's not exactly the day that Venus goes retrograde. It's the day after on July 23rd because my book is a 40-day journey and I thought, wow, how synchronistic is this because I wrote the bulk of my book during the Venus retrograde in Capricorn that happened at the end of 2021 to 2022. And that was such a life changing Venus retrograde for me personally because it was conjunct Pluto. And it was just like very deep and healing. And it was all about self worth because it was transiting my second house. But anyway, I mentioned that in the book that I wrote this during Venus retrograde. And then it's almost like now, during this retrograde in Leo, I wanted to lead people through this journey because ultimately Venus retrogrades are really about reflections of our value and our worth and what's important to us. So that's starting off on Sunday, July 22nd, 23rd for 40 days. And if you want to learn more about that, you can head to the link that will link somewhere on this show. And yeah, I'm super excited because it's something that I've always wanted to lead people through. I just didn't know how to do the format, but
Mhm.
I I did it in a way where we would meet for 6 Sundays and the last day, which is August 31st. Because 40 days, if you don't know, is also a very spiritual amount of time. It's referenced in the Bible, it's referenced in other spiritual texts of the time it takes for somebody to break a habit and create new ones. So that's what's going on with me. Fun retrograde summer.
Oh my gosh. No, there's no more synchronistic of a time to do that, especially since you wrote this body of work during a Venus retrograde. You are so intimately familiar with that energy. I think that's such a powerful time to lead people through this type of manifestation work.
Yes, and we're going to talk about this more later with the Venus in Leo retrograde, but actually, the last time Venus was in Leo, and there was like a bunch of other things going on at that time because Leo rules my ninth house of publishing, is actually when I got this book deal. So, again, this was like another Venus signification for my personal life.
Mhm.
So yeah, it was a big deal. And 2 years later, we're back here finishing up this story. So
Oh,
yeah, feels
chills.
good.
I love to hear it. And people can catch you on your podcast as well. Do you want to tell them a little bit about
Yes.
that?
My podcast is called Awaken and Align, and it's all about spirituality and collective liberation through the format of storytelling. So I interview people that honestly I just like meet or find on Instagram or TikTok, and I slide into their DMs because something about their work and their story resonates with me and what's going on in the cultural zeitgeist. So I asked them about their origin story, how they came to what they're currently doing, and it has some theme around spirituality or activism or magic.
Mhm.
Um, and it tends to be the stuff that I'm interested in personally or what's going on at the time. So I try to have a new episode every Wednesday, as you know, is ruled by Mercury. But now going into my fifth year of podcasting, I've
Oh
been
my God.
more into like seasons so that I have a little break.
Yes. Yes. Rest is so important. And that's kind of how, I mean, we connected.
Yes. I
Yeah.
asked you to be on my podcast in 2020, I think.
Yeah,
and
and
drama.
I was
Yeah.
terrified. It was my first podcast.
Really?
Yeah, I used to tell people I was like, I'd rather die than be on a podcast or ever have a podcast. I'm so terrified of speaking publicly. And look at us now.
I know. Look at you now. I remember you mentioning, well, you definitely told me you had a Virgo moon and that you were nervous about showing up, but this was something that you wanted to do in the future. And look at you, you have a podcast now. So do you
I
want
do.
to tell us about what's going on with you?
Yes, yes. And thank you for cracking and popping my podcast cherry because
I have that effect on people. Just like come come face your fears with me.
yes, yes. It's all your encouraging fire placements. But yeah, I have a daily podcast, daily horoscope for your zodiac sign with Stephanie Campos, moi. And you can catch your daily horoscope there and also the astrology of the day. And I also release bonus episodes with interesting guests and just some of my personal musings because I want to share about things that are important in the world.
And you have a book coming out as well.
And I have a book coming out, Seasons of the Zodiac, Love, Magic, and Manifestation throughout the astrological year. And it is available now for pre-order. And the pre-order phase is like the most important and like the most pressure during the book creation process. So every pre-order counts. And it's essentially, I've come to realize, a collection of the various ways that I've changed my life and manifested and co-created my dream life, but through the lens of the zodiac season. So I kind of highlight different activities that you can do to change your relationship with your intuition and with manifestation and your nervous system based on the zodiac seasons that we're moving through. And there's spells and rituals and all kinds of good shit in there for everyone.
So up my alley. So exciting. And it comes out in October, right?
It's a little Scorpio baby. Yes.
Oh, so cute.
Yeah. Yeah. But without further ado, should you want to wrap up June? Should we give some June reflections before we dive into July?
Yes, June was, well, we titled it like a pivotal month of change, and I think every month seems like that. But what I noticed and what we've been kind of commiserating on about June was like how much water energy there was.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, because Saturn in Pisces, Neptune in Pisces, and then Saturn going in its retrograde, and then now we're in Cancer season, it just seemed like the element of water and the spirit of water was like, hello, I'm here
Yes.
out for vengeance.
Yes. The ocean and the orcas are fighting back, and I'm living for it.
Yes. It was like, first of all, I love that the orcas, I learned so much about orcas. I know you love orcas, right? That's like
I'm
your
a
baby.
freakishly obsessed with orcas since childhood.
Yeah.
Yes.
And by the way, in June, I got to hang out with you in your home,
Don't make
which
me cry. Oh my
was
gosh.
so fun.
We still miss you and talk about you every day. One's not the same. She's like, where's Laura?
I literally like fell in love with, I mean, I have to say your dogs because your cats like didn't want to be seen by me,
Yeah.
but that's okay. I respect their space, but literally her dogs I felt like were my soulmates. They just like, I don't know. I still get like emotional thinking about it. Like how much they just like wanted to cuddle and they wanted attention. And that was like the highlight of June for me personally was getting to spend time with you and getting to meet your husband.
I'm literally crying. This is cancer season coming to life. It was so amazing. And like we looked at the synastry between you and the little pups, and it was just like out of this world. Like you
Yeah,
were all meant to
be
just love
together.
on each other. So it was truly like my highlight as well. I had
It
so
was the
much fun.
highlight.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think I might have said this to you in like a drunken, like emotional mess one night, but I feel like also spending time with Joey, who is Stephanie's husband, really helped heal a lot of the limiting beliefs I had around like cis hetero white men because, one of the big like beliefs I'm trying to heal is that all of them are trash.
Hmm.
And I'm being proven by the universe and the people that I surround myself with that that's not entirely true. And just the way like Joey being a Taurus sun and just like cooking for us and he's not an astrologer, but he was like playing along with us while we were talking astrology, and Stephanie and I were talking astrology like the whole time,
Nonstop.
nonstop.
Mm.
And just how he was like giving us our space, but also like wanting to be a part of our interactions. It was just so healing, and I just wanted to say that out loud because it was just such a beautiful time with you and in your home, which is such a private like fourth house thing,
Hmm.
and with your your fur babies, and the whole thing was just so beautiful. And I don't even know why I went into that rant, about June and like the overall theme of June, but and then I got to hang out with a lot of family during my California tour. So yeah, there was this backdrop of like um, water energy and like being protected and feeling very nourished by people, and then also kind of feeling like, wow, the orcas are badass. And the point I was trying to make about the orcas is that they're a matriarchal um,
Hmm.
species. It's the
Yep.
women that like fight back.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Um, oh my gosh. I just have to say, side note, we're planning a trip to New York later in the year. And Joey's first comment was like, we're gonna see Laura, right? I'm like,
Of
yes,
course.
we're gonna see Laura.
Okay.
But that was like top priority. Um, but yeah, June was, I think the first half of the month was, it had this combination of energy that was like frenetic and like energizing and intense. Um, but also like a flow, just yeah, and I think a lot of that was because of the Pluto interactions that were going on, um, and the retrograde Pluto moving back into Capricorn. And the second half of the month felt very uh, inward as well. So it was kind of like really action oriented in the first half. And then the second half, I felt like kind of after Saturn stationed retrograde. Normally, I don't really notice that. I'm like, whatever, just another day. But I felt a shift this time.
Were there any transits that we mentioned that really stood out to you as you were like living it and embodying it?
Oh, I mean, just the most recent one that comes to mind is Mars square Uranus. I think I was like, watch out, for me, because I'm like a Leo everything. And that was a totally wild, intense, frustrating
By
day.
the book.
Yeah, by the book. Um, that was one. The Sun square Neptune and Mercury square Neptune,
Mhm.
both of those days, I've started doing plunges into the ocean nearby my house. And I've done it 3 times now, and I'm committing to like keeping that up. And I did those on the Neptune days, and it felt very healing. It felt almost like a remediation. Normally, when Neptune is like in a hard aspect, I feel like I'm in a fog or like confusion or, over paranoid. Sometimes I totally spin that way. But I was able to feel more grounded by integrating the element and the power of the ocean into my daily life on under those transits.
Ooh, yeah. I was like cheering you on when I watched your reel. I was like, go Steph.
You started it all on when it was like Sun trine Neptune. You're like, I'm running into the ocean. And I went to the ocean that day. I was like, okay, Laura, let's do it. I went to the ocean and I looked at it and I was like, too chilly, not for me.
It was Venus trine Neptune.
Oh,
It was
there you go.
Venus in Cancer trine Neptune in Pisces. Yeah, I love a good ocean pummel. Like there's something about, and I actually read up about this. There's a certain like I don't remember what it is, mineral that's in seawater that you can't get in like an Epsom salt bath when you just take a bath in your, home.
Mhm.
And it helps to like wash away and cleanse the negative ions on your body.
Mm-hmm.
And I just, you know, here in New York and New Jersey, I'm assuming it's similar to where you are. Like, it's not calm waters. It's like the waves will eat you up.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something about surrendering to that that I just really love, because the ocean, as we've seen, is terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
It has its own energy. It's going to do its own thing. So, I mean, I'm not suggesting people do this. Obviously, do it with your swim level. But there's something about being rocked by the waves that kind of shakes you out of your mind, your head.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, it just puts things in perspective and brings you back to a place of embodiment, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Sun square Neptune. I listened back to our June forecast and I remember saying, you might feel like you're drifting off to sea because I have this aspect in my chart. And sometimes I was telling you that this weekend I just like literally went off into my own dimension and I read two fantasy novels because I just like go off into this like other world. And that was around the same time that the submarine was lost, or quote unquote lost. They couldn't find it. And so yeah, they it definitely has a more tragic and malefic signification sometimes, but also it can just make you want to disappear into a different reality. That
Mm-hmm.
really stood out to me.
Yeah. Yeah. It was yeah, the transits were loud, especially towards the end of the month with the submersible or whatever it's called getting lost in the ocean. Um and I think Saturn and Pisces has been especially loud in terms
Yeah.
of like honoring its boundaries, protecting the ocean. And I also, Saturn is a planet of karma. And I think of the Navy, which is an organization around water, right?
Mhm.
Um, kind of dealing with karma. That whole week of the submissible being, quote unquote, like you said, lost, they knew on Sunday that it imploded. They heard the sound on Sunday, but every single day after that, there was some story to capture our attention still, you know, like now we're hearing banging sounds and oh my gosh, there's 18 hours of air left. And oh my gosh, we've just released a new vehicle under the sea that can finally reach them. Like, you
Yeah.
think that the Navy doesn't have that at their will, just
Mhm.
always?
Mhm.
Anyways, I'm getting sidetracked, but
It's not a sidetrack. There was such a huge juxtaposition with what was going on with the submissible. Am I even pronouncing that right? And even the refugees
yes,
at
it was a
off,
distraction.
yeah, off the coast of Greece, and people and migrants and people who were drowning, and
Mm-hmm.
nobody was saving them.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, all the coast guards from all these countries were trying to find five billionaires. And then also I sent you that article recently about SCOTUS like not protecting the waters of the indigenous people, the one that
Mm-hmm.
just happened this week. So yeah, it's like a very Neptunian, like let me distract you with this illusion that we're trying to find these people, and
Mm-hmm.
but in the meantime, we're doing all this bad stuff.
It felt very Seven of Swords, like we're getting away with this stuff while all of you are distracted by, you know, there was major news stories that week
Mhm.
that just flew under the radar because everyone was so obsessed with like, are they still breathing? They only have 2 hours left of air. No, they don't. They exploded days ago.
And the karma thing was so loud because let's just think about the people who actually couldn't leave the Titanic when it was sinking. It was like the second class ticket
Mm-hmm.
holders. The people who were able to get off were the women and children in first class. So the people at the bottom of the ocean and their spirits were, you know, poor people. And
That's mhm.
so billionaires, out of their curiosity, going to see something that's literally a grave site, it just
Mhm.
felt very karmic to me.
And that, I mean, when they kept talking about banging, I was like, yeah, you're hearing spirits. at the bottom of the ocean. Like that's what the banging is. It's
Yeah.
not people in a submarine making
Yeah.
it. But anywho, June was a wild ride.
Yeah. What
And
about what about July? What are your first impressions?
I think it feels like the first half of the month is there's a lot of free flowing energy and supportive energy, and we're making progress and we're deepening connections and we're getting exciting ideas. But the second half of the month feels chaotic. And once the nodes shift, so the nodes of fate and destiny are what determine where we experience eclipses in our life, which determine the fated endings and beginnings that take place in our life for 18 months. Once it's a big deal when they change signs. Um, and once they shift right away, Pluto, the planet of the underworld, death, destruction, purging, catharsis, transformation, will be forming a square with the nodes. And that's an incredibly fated aspect. Then a couple of days later, we've got, I mean, we'll get into all of it, but Venus station retrograde. The second half of the month feels like, I would just say, use the first half of the month to kind of solidify a supportive routine for yourself because we're going to be tested, I would say, later on.
Hmm.
How about you?
Yeah. First of all, I just want to make a note about Cancer. Like the energy of Cancer to me feels like protection, but having to protect yourself and being a little bit more like secluded in a way.
Mm.
There's like no other sign than Cancer that scares me actually, and that's coming from an Aries.
Ooh.
Cancers to me are mean and
Uh,
very blunt.
mhm.
Because, like, I think there's this misconception because cancers are water signs, they're ruled by the moon, and they're emotional. I personally find that cancers are like the most fiercest signs.
Mhm.
And so the energy of Cancer, and maybe I'm just projecting too because it's in my eighth house, it's this energy of like, I have to share what I only want to share with people that I only care about and not like overextend myself like we did in Gemini season.
Mhm.
And then, like you said, Leo season seems a little more spicy this year.
Mm. Yeah, that's a sweet way to say it.
I don't know.
Definitely.
Summer feels, and again, we don't know until these kind of play out and we just live it. But just looking at all of the aspects and the oppositions, it just seems like, and the squares, it just seems like, um, you know, either you're going to have a lot of hot sex or you're going to be fighting.
Yeah. And probably both. Probably both. So,
Shall we start?
yeah, without further ado, July 1st, we have two exciting aspects in the sky. Mercury will form a sextile with Jupiter, and the sun will form a sextile with Jupiter. Sextiles are aspects where they require us to take advantage of them. So this could literally just be like another day that comes and goes if you don't decide to make the most of it. Um, Mercury and Jupiter is supportive and encouraging conversation. A great day to get on the same page with people in your relationships or like sending a contract. Um, Expansive ideas may come through. And the sun's connection with Jupiter feels like just progress and exciting growth in whatever we in some of our towards some of our goals and dreams.
Yeah, I just can't help thinking that we're dipping a little bit into June, but the day before we have that Kazemi, and I love Kazemis.
Mhm.
And I think we spoke about this in the June forecast where Mercury in a water sign is more internal and doesn't necessarily speak, it's nonverbal.
Mhm.
And so you might have gotten a great download the day
Mm.
before, and now you're going to like be inspired to act upon it. Because with sextiles, you do kind of have to do something.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Yeah, that's a great lead into it. The day before in the Kazemi, that's totally when intuitive and innovative and breakthrough ideas come through. So this feels like a day of taking action, confident action, right? The sun's involved. So we're feeling like, yeah, we're ready to do this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Cancer is a cardinal sign, so it wants to take action in some
Mm-hmm.
way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that. That's really sweet. And also, I noticed there's so much water and earth energy in the air, which in the sky, which, as somebody who's mostly fire and air dominant, feels different. It feels like the earth will give a lot of grounding and the water will give a lot of flow. It's a lot of feminine energy. So that's another thing I wanted to point out.
Yeah, it makes me feel like integrating and embodying our emotions,
Ooh,
having them pass through us and just being able to witness them and kind of move on.
perfect. July 2nd, Venus in Leo square Uranus in Taurus.
Okay. I want all my Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius placements to listen up. So if you have a rising sign or important personal planets, especially between the degrees of 15 and 25 degrees, you're going to feel this the most intensely. Um, Last time Venus formed a square with Uranus, I put a picture of my butt on the internet. Venus is a planet of aesthetics and harmony and our relationships and our values. And Uranus likes to go against the grain and do something unconventional. Um, so, yeah, I think if you read about this online, they might say like unstable relationships may break up, or you could experience some frustrating or surprising confrontations. But it's also a day to like experiment with people you're close with. It's not just romantic relationships, but it's a day to experiment.
Mhm. Also, just a caveat, like this is happening. Leo is your ascendant. Leo is your rising sign, it's your first house, is your body, and Taurus is your 10th house. So, like, she's giving an example of how she used it in her personal chart, but like, it doesn't have to be the same thing, but it's something maybe shocking and something that you wouldn't necessarily do, right?
Yes.
And because they're happening in your angular houses, it seems like a bigger deal
Mm-hmm.
than, let's say, I don't know, like I have Leo in my ninth and Taurus is my sixth, and I was telling Stephanie that the Mars in Leo square Uranus and Taurus was kind of like me just nerding out about astrology and reading and researching, but
Yes.
it interrupted my normal pattern, because I was really going down some wormholes. But it was something that, again, I got excited about because, and maybe that's the Uranus signature, because I was like reignited again for my
Mm.
passion for this topic.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. You don't have to put your butt on the internet, but we'll preface it with that. But I love what you said, an interruption of your regular pattern and routine. This is a day where your plans are not going to go according to what you had thought. Your schedule might experience some shakeups. If are privileged and able to pad flexibility into your schedule, that's the day to do it. Um, and it's a great day to take a risk within reason.
Hmm. And squares, I forget which month we talked about squares, but they can be dysregulating to your nervous system. So, whatever you need to do to regulate your nervous system first, and because I think of your Uranus in Taurus as like your nervous system in your body, and
Mm,
then the square just like activating it.
mhm.
But yeah, I do believe in using this energy to take some kind of action once you have this form of safety in your body.
Yeah, I would say for the most part, Venus square Uranus transits have been cute and exciting. Um, but there is also the potential, these energies can manifest in a myriad of ways. So,
Hmm. Yes.
yeah. And like you mentioned, Mars square Uranus. Take a look back to June 26th, because whatever was going on in your life around that time, this may be a day where some similar topics and themes come back up for revision and kind of to complete out that storyline.
In a sweeter way.
Yes, in a sweeter way. Definitely.
Because
Definitely.
Venus is the ruler of Taurus. So
Yes.
I think it is a little sweeter.
Yeah. And also I said to finish the story and I misspoke. This is going to happen two more times later
Yes.
in the month. So because of the Venus retrograde. So anywho, just pay attention on this day because this is a multiple part chapter and
Mhm.
this is your second set of clues as to what's unfolding here.
Yes.
Then July 3rd, we have the full moon in Capricorn at 4:39 a.m. Pacific time, 7:39 a.m. Eastern time. Laura, what in the world do you think about this full moon?
I absolutely love this full moon.
Mm.
And I don't say that about Capricorn stuff because
Roasted.
I know, I'm sorry. I do love the earth signs, but I earth is so like to me, and but I do love this because first of all, it's happening at 11 degrees. So you want to look at like how big do you use your orb?
I do 5 degrees on one side and 5 degree on the other, usually. But with the moon, you can go up to 10 or 12. So,
Okay. I do like 6.
mhm.
So like 5 to 17 degrees of Capricorn. Just look if you have placements around there. Because it's a full moon, look at your Cancer placement as well. But I really love this because the moon is trying to Jupiter in Taurus and it's sextile to Saturn, which is the ruler of this full moon. I just think it's super supportive. And what you said about the earth and the water, it's like being able to fully embody something. And, you know, Pluto just went back into Capricorn at 29 degrees, so it's not exactly conjunct, but it's co-present there. And I fully believe now that it's gone back there that you aren't back there, but you've learned something from Pluto being in Capricorn to where now you're in this transformation phase,
Yes.
right? That's what it feels like. So I
Yes.
feel like this is such a beautiful full moon. What do you think about it?
Well, well, what I was going to say is that I love that we have this is like our full moon synastry because you have this like positive spin and I'm always like doom and gloom. I just wrote the full moon horoscopes and turned them in this morning for well and good, and my assessment of the moon there, it's definitely a cute moon, but I also noticed that it will be the next aspect after the full moon is it's applying to a square with Chiron and Aries.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that that's actually a good thing. So hear me out. So Chiron's the wounded healer, and it illuminates our deepest pain, woundings from the past, but also kind of like our healing journey. So I think this full moon will illuminate some of our triggers. And the full moon in Capricorn is about our relationship with the future and the past, about the legacy we want to leave behind and what we want to create in the world. And I think whatever triggers are illuminated for us is a blessing and a gift to show us what's holding us back. In what way are we still engaging with this pattern and this wound? And how can we clear it, accept it, surrender it, release it, so we can access our full potential?
Mm-hmm. I actually heard from a couple of our listeners that that's what they like about us is because we have differing viewpoints. So that is an advantage of being a full moon, I have to say.
We cover all the ground.
Yeah, but it's also just interesting to see what you see that is also a part of this story. And I 100% agree because also what you touched upon about Cancer and Capricorn, it is about the past because the moon rules Cancer, and the moon holds our memories, and then Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, which is the past. So I do see, because I have the north and south node in these signs, that when it's triggered, it brings up stuff from the past and our
Mhm.
memories.
Mhm.
And it's very triggering sometimes, especially when you are in a place where you don't want to be and you're like, gosh, I just want to move forward.
Mhm.
And Aries, Chiron and Aries being another cardinal like fire sign, it's like having the agency and having the power within yourself to change it,
Mhm.
because yeah, we have to.
Yeah. But it will also form a trine with Uranus. And that, so it feels almost like we go through this moment of, ugh, this you again, and then we meet Uranus and we feel ready to break free from something. We feel ready to try a new path forward. And it ends on that kind of like uplifting note. I also think it's very important that what you mentioned about this is our first major lunation since Pluto re-entered Capricorn. And I felt like that immediately, kind of what you were saying about now we're in the transformation phase. Once Pluto re-entered Capricorn and moved back into my sixth, I had that feeling of, oh, you again, this
Yeah.
kind of feeling again. But I felt empowered. I was like, not today, Satan. Today,
Yes.
like this is how I'm dealing with it now, And
Yes.
so I think to your point, this is going to illuminate um part of our personal final Pluto and Capricorn agenda.
I had the same, literally the same saying. I said, not today, Satan. I was like, 15 years of you, I'm done.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I do think, I mean, obviously, again, please check your own natal chart if you know how to
Mhm.
read this, because everybody is going to experience this in a different way, in a different area of your life. But I would say overall, there is like a bittersweet note to this full moon. And depending on your, um, I guess, your flavor for earth energy, then you would be more, I guess, ready for a full moon, because also the full moons are a culmination of energy. Like you're ready to kind of like um, release or burst or come
Mhm.
full into something. And there's like all this other stuff in the background kind of going on behind the scenes that are also like triggering points. And so, yeah, you might feel a little heightened at this time, your emotions being heightened at this time. I mean,
Yeah, absolutely. So
so July
next up.
6th,
Yeah, tell us, what do we got?
July 6th, we have Mercury in Cancer, sextile Uranus in Taurus. Again,
Okay, so
right? No?
yeah, this is cute. This feels like Mercury and Uranus are the combination feels again kind of like switching up your daily routine, trying something new, um, coming up with new ideas, expanding your mind, your intuition. When I think of these, I consider both of these planets to be very like intuitive, and when they meet, uh, yeah, intuitive downloads could come through. So that's like when you wake up that morning, I would right away ask for signs from your spirit team and your ancestors. Be like, show me some synchronicities throughout the day when I need it the most.
Hmm. I like that. I don't know if you believe in this kind of thing. I don't, but some people think of Uranus as the higher octave of Mercury. Do you believe in that kind of thing?
I was literally going to say that. And then I was like, I don't believe in that. So I'm not going to say it.
I think that's an evolutionary astrology kind of thing.
Yeah.
I, I personally believe that all the planets have its own has its own energy,
Yeah.
and they deal with different parts of the body. They have a different resonance, but I do feel like Mercury and Uranus have this feeling of quickness, or like something needing to be transmitted.
Hmm. Yeah. So, yeah, interesting conversations will take place. Interesting ideas will come through. Stay tuned in, stay curious.
Mhm.
Then the next, a few days later, July 9th, Mercury in Cancer will form a trine with Neptune in Pisces. This is, I think I told everyone last month, one of my favorite aspects to get stoned under. OMG. The downloads just like beam through my head. Um, I love it. And coming through in the water signs, two intuitive water signs, like get stoned, take a bath or a shower, cleansing your working with water, um, can lead to bless your water even, if you don't like to smoke the weed like I do, that's totally fine. Like bless your water, but working with water can be very mystical today.
Oh, yeah. Going back to our water conversation, I was going to say bring offerings to the oceans, or if you live near a lake or a river, do water magic. I think all the girlies who do water magic are just having a field day this like year or the next 3 years when Saturn's in Pisces. And also just like, yeah, giving offerings to the ocean, because I'm just thinking about, I don't necessarily live that close to an ocean, but I'm an ocean person, and I'm like rethinking going into the ocean for the first time. So like giving offerings versus being the offering.
Yeah, or asking for permission.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes, and working with your water deities if you
Mhm.
have any.
Yeah. But intuitive connection, healing conversations, compassionate responses, practically speaking, that's kind of how the energy will also play out.
Mhm. July 10th, Mars enters Virgo.
Whoa!
How,
July 10th is crazy.
all right, July 10th. How do you think of Mars entering, like Mars in Virgo?
Mm, mm. Be very careful what you say because you can't always take it back.
Ooh.
Words become our weapon. We're more precise with our words. We have the advantage of charging forward with, precision and a detail oriented mind, but we adopt a way of, our weaponry, our way of armor and fighting is through our words.
Mhm.
Um, and being critical of others and ourselves. And I think if you're feeling like you're being really critical of other people, it's probably projection and it's time to like look inward.
Mm.
Mhm.
Mhm.
What about you?
Well, I didn't really know. That's why I was like trying to feel into this energy. I mean, Mars is severing and separating, and then Virgo to me is really about editing and being like health. So,
Hmm.
like, I think the first thing that came up was just being like super strict about your health routines and like cutting out stuff that you don't want to eat anymore. Um, but I really didn't know. I had to think about it.
Hmm. um I think something that is makes this Mars in Virgo transit more interesting is that in August Mercury in Virgo is going to station retrograde, and it's going to be tracing over the steps that Mars travels through. So once Mars enters Virgo, you're also getting clues to your personal Mercury retrograde story that's going to take place next month. And something else that two other things that make this more interesting is that this Mars in Virgo is answering to Mercury in Virgo. So, and they're also very close to making a conjunction. They're traveling side by side in the sky, very similar to how right now Venus and Mars are traveling side by side in Leo. But Mercury is going to station retrograde right before it meets Mars. So there's this um in your Virgo house, there's going to be this wave of momentum, drive, and activity towards pursuing something, working towards something. But there will be next month a pause. a
Mhm.
speed bump, um, where we have to turn it inward and reflect on, how we're going to proceed. So I think it's an interesting transit just because it's going to offer so many clues into what's going to come next month.
Mm. And also Mars opposing Saturn in Pisces, but we'll get to that obviously. Yeah.
Sobs into the microphone.
But what about all this other July 10th activity? Damn.
Holy smokes. Okay.
Mercury,
So,
Mercury opposing Pluto,
mhm,
Mercury entering Leo. Mercury's just like flying by.
yes. So Mercury in Cancer will sit across the sky from Pluto in Capricorn at the 29th degree. This is what's called the anaretic degree for anyone who doesn't know or is new to astrology. It is a critical point, it is a point of tension, pressure, um, and Mercury opposite Pluto is already intense, but this feels amplified. It is also going to be tracing over um, where Pluto will square the nodes, and secrets are often revealed when Mercury is opposite Pluto. I think this will foreshadow some of what's going to unfold um, a couple days later once the nodes are activated. Um, but yeah, intense conversations, cathartic conversations can take place. The Cancer and Capricorn axis in your chart, look at what kind of topics those houses um, signify. And power struggles can come up, feelings of jealousy, things that you've repressed, or your shadow side. Um, but yeah, powerful realizations too.
Mhm. Family secrets.
Yes.
I also realized that when the submersible went down, this was also when Pluto um, was retrograde, and a lot of people on TikTok were saying like this, if this is not an ether rich kind of
Yes.
situation, because Pluto at the 29th degree in Capricorn is like going against the institutions and the status quo. And I just thought that was interesting because Pluto represents wealth as well.
And it's the same week that Mark Zuckerberg and Elon Asshat were like, we're gonna fight each other in a cage.
Yes. And
So
everyone's like, go down there then, or
yes,
something.
yeah, yeah, yeah. hmm Um, so stay tuned because that looks like a juicy day in the news, and our personal lives, TBH. But
Yes. And actually, we missed the most important day of July, which is July 4th. It's the
oh,
USA's solar return.
oh yeah, well, I didn't even look at the chart for that day. Whoops.
I didn't either. I do find it interesting because it's the day after the full moon in Capricorn, and
Oh,
we're going through our Pluto return.
I have it
And
up. You want to
yeah,
know something juicy about it?
I do.
The moon will be conjunct Pluto that day.
Oh, yes, of course.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Ooh.
The U.S. The Sun and Jupiter and Mercury are all in Cancer in the eighth house. So,
Mm-hmm.
and the U.S. Sibley chart is a Sag rising, so that Jupiter is exalted in Cancer. And if you think about how the U.S. made its wealth, it was through people's taxes and through like conquering other lands. It was like other people's money,
Mm-hmm.
which I find very interesting.
And
So
resources. Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I think what made me think of that is the July 10th, because this is a few days after the solar return of the US. And I definitely think these transits are going to affect us as a country.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Obviously.
Naming that prediction now.
Yeah. And the US has a North Node in Leo in the ninth. So
Mm.
I think the Venus retrograde is also going to impact that.
Oh yeah. Hello, politics.
Yes.
Uh-huh. Foreign affairs.
Mhm.
Um, okay. Then later on July 10th, Mercury enters the sweet graces of Leo.
Hmm.
What do you think about Mercury in Leo? I'm too biased.
I don't know. The first thing that came to mind was love bombing.
Oh my God, yes.
And I know on TikTok love bombing is a red flag. I get it. But I don't know. It sometimes people need words of affirmation, and just knowing you and just knowing the way that Leos express, it's like, affirmations like I'm worthy, I am amazing, I am beautiful, and that's what comes to mind.
Um, I love that you said love bombing. For me, like I was a literal cheerleader, but I'm also an emotional cheerleader, and I love bomb all of the people in my life, like to the fullest extent.
Yeah.
Like if I'm ride or die, that's Leo energy. We're fixed signs, but yeah, I am always standing on the sidelines, like you can do it, keep going, you got this. That's very Mercury and Leo, encouraging, and it will be answering to the sun. And, towards the beginning of the transit, the sun is going to be in Cancer, but later in the month, the sun will enter Leo, and then it kind of gets a little bit of a cosmic boost. Um, but Mercury in Leo is about speaking authentically, courageously, um, being weird and loving it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. And Venus in there as well, you might be like really pouring out your heart to somebody or some people in your life and
Mm-hmm.
being honest about your feelings,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
for
I think it's cute,
example. It is
given what we had to deal with earlier in the day.
cute. Yes. Okay, where are we? July 14th, the sun in Cancer will sextile Uranus in Taurus at 22 degrees.
Mm. That's cute. That's sweet. That's
Mhm.
like a little bit of experimenting and shake up in your day. Maybe embracing some more of your own quirks and weirdness and share, feeling brave enough to share publicly.
Mhm.
What else comes to mind?
Yeah, I think like we're just having a lot of Uranus and Taurus activation, obviously with the sextiles and the squares. And I just think that area of your life, I mean, if not already, because the North Node, Jupiter, everything being there, it's just another like action point to take, to do something. Um, in the case of the sun being in Cancer and it's like 22 degrees, you want to see like where you have 22 degrees in any of your placements. Yeah, just taking more action steps. I don't
Hmm.
know.
Yeah, the plot thickens. We're moving forward in a new and exciting way.
Yes, because we had something similar to this earlier in the month, right? Like
Mercury.
Mercury.
So
Yeah.
look back to July 6th. Good point, because that's going to kind of echo what takes place on this day.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And then July 17th, we have three major things happening. First, we have the North Node into Aries.
Mhm.
Do you want to talk about that first?
Yeah. So the North Node goes into Aries, the South Node goes into Libra, and the nodes of fate and destiny shift signs. So for the past 18 months, the North Node has been in Taurus, the South Node has been in Scorpio. So cardinal signs, you're up. Your life is about to be flip flopped. Karmic people are entering and exiting your life. And eclipses are going to be taking place in the signs that impact you the most. But this can be, growing pains can be uncomfortable, but also super fucking epic and exciting. So, um, yeah, I think what makes the nodal shift the most intense is that, like, right away, it's going to form that square with Pluto in Capricorn. Um, but it's interesting because the North Node has been in a Venus ruled sign, and now it's going to be in a Mars ruled sign. and the South Node was in a Mars ruled sign, and now it will be in a Venus ruled sign. So we're kind of continuing the storyline, but from someone else's perspective, maybe.
Hmm. And last year we had a Mars retrograde in Gemini, and then this year we're having a Venus retrograde in Leo. I think that's very
Ooh,
synchronistic. It's almost
ooh.
like we're getting this like cosmic test of Mars and Venus.
I just saw a drain, the image of a drain in my mind, like clearing out.
Yes.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I am excited about this
The
because
last,
I'm Aries.
uh-huh, uh-huh.
I know this energy, but yeah, I think it's this polarity and this integration of self and other, because Aries is self, Libra is relationships, and I think we predicted this when we did our Mars and Venus episode like last year, that we think or we believe that a lot of people will either break up or get into more conscious relationships,
Hmm.
hopefully.
Hmm. Um, and I think it's also important to remember that the last time the nodes moved through these signs, I believe was December 2004
Mhm.
through something 2006. So pay attention to basically 2005, 2006, what was going on in your life around that time, um, because similar topics may come up.
Yes. And then the same day, new moon in Cancer at 24 degrees at 11:32 a.m. Pacific, 2:32 p.m. Eastern, and it's going to oppose Pluto.
I was going to say, you already know I'm doom and gloom about this. Um, I don't, okay, but I don't think it has to be doom and gloom. So it's taking place, like you said, at 24 degrees, 11:32 a.m. Pacific, 2:32 p.m. Eastern. Um, the most immediate aspect to the moon is Neptune in Pisces. And I think that is truly stunning and beautiful. And I think we will all sob. If you do not cry on this day, something is wrong with you.
Yes.
Um, and it will sit across the sky from Pluto. So I think that there's this potential for healing and a deeper understanding and surrender. But we really have to face what makes us uncomfortable and what we fear first.
Mhm. We need to hear, it's not doom and gloom. We just need to hear reality too. So I appreciate that about you.
Thank you.
I do think that we can't just skate by with all these like beautiful aspects. We need to know like what we're preparing ourselves for here. So
Hmm.
I do think that with it opposing Pluto, the moon opposing Pluto, like that's a difficult thing. That's like seeing stuff
Hmm.
that might be triggering to you.
Hmm.
Maybe not seeing, but more feeling things coming
Hmm.
up again from the past. You being like, I thought I had figured this out, or I thought I healed from this, and then it coming back. But ultimately, life is a spiral, so it's not like we're repeating a cycle, but we have more wisdom and knowledge this time around. But sometimes we have to see it again to fully integrate that lesson.
Yeah. And healing isn't linear and grief doesn't work like we think it works. So I think just be gentle with yourself. And if you feel like I've had many moments in my life where I'm like, oh, I thought I was done with this. I thought I healed this.
Yes.
Like,
Oh.
listen, no one's healed. No one's fully healed. We're just human beings
Mhm.
having a very, we're spiritual beings having a human experience. And part of that is we get to heal ongoing for the rest of our lives.
Yes.
So have compassion for yourself.
And the moon is in its own sign.
That's cute.
It's cute. Yeah. But, new moons are for setting new intentions. It's for, making some kind of a new beginning for yourself. And I think this one is pretty powerful because
Yeah.
it's going to make a trine to Neptune like you mentioned, and then Pluto. So
Yeah. And The trine to Neptune is cute. But I'll be sobbing in my bathtub if you need me that day. So,
I know. I mean, Cancer season is just an emotional time to begin with, but definitely this.
mhm. And then the grand finale on July 17th, Mercury and Leo forms a square with Jupiter and Taurus at 12 degrees. Oh my God, I didn't realize it was at 12 degrees. My
Yes.
sun is at 11 degrees. Hello.
Fun times.
Ugh. Um, this is what do you think of this energy?
I think that, well, Mercury and Jupiter are like about knowledge, right? It's about
Mm.
disseminating information. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I just see this as like if you want to use the square to take action and say something or deliver something, or I wouldn't use it necessarily to like launch something, maybe.
Mm.
But it just seems like big, bold energy. Like, I'm going to do this big thing.
It's easy to bite off more than you can chew
Yes.
and to overpromise. And I would say look out for exaggerations. Allow yourself to feel the optimism and the excitement about things. Um, but I'm notorious for this, and I'm sure it's my Leo stellium. And Joey was just telling me about this the other day. He's like, you wake up and you're like, I'm gonna do this, and I list off like thousands of things that I'm gonna do in an 12-hour period, right? And then the end of the day comes and I'm like, I only did three things. That is Mercury square Jupiter. So rein it in, do the things that are important, be
Yeah.
excited, but don't promise that you're going to get everything done because it's just not possible.
Yeah. Overindulgence of like, um, also maybe like you said, promising too much than you
Mm-hmm.
can chew, or saying too much, maybe word vomit.
Well, funny that you speak of vomit because I was just going to say I'm totally like I have been historically a nervous puker up until the last couple of years. I've gotten my nervous system regulated with tapping. Um, but that is an aspect that would make me puke. I'd be like, blah, So, if you are drinking, have water, have a meal. It could maybe be hangover energy.
Hmm. Yeah. Or just have fun with it.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and then get an IV the next day. I've never done that, but
I've
always.
never done that either. My sister does it all the time.
Ugh.
But yeah, also Jupiter and Taurus is just for me like spending a lot, like just
Ooh.
for indulging in food or
Mm.
buying stuff. And
Mhm.
Mercury is a planet of commerce, right?
Yep.
So just like overindulging in something.
Hmm.
Um,
Yes. Yes. All of the above. Grandiose energy.
mhm.
Then July 20th, the sun in Cancer forms a trine with Neptune and Pisces.
So nice.
So sweet.
I'm totally going to the beach that day and doing
Jump
an ocean dip.
jump into the ocean or any body of water you can. Um, this also feels like if you are someone who tunes into your intuition or your psychic muscles, maybe you're integrating a deeper connection with
Mhm.
your own abilities. A lot of psychic vibes in the air today.
Very psychic vibes. And Neptune in Pisces also reminds me of like music.
Mm.
Playing music, being in music, going to a concert. You were talking about you went to Blink 182 concert and you like cried because of nostalgia. Like
Yeah.
I have those same experiences where I'm literally sobbing during a concert because music just reminds me of so many important moments in my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Very nostalgic vibes for sure. Active dream world as well. I think there's such an interesting contrast on July 20th because on one hand you have this delicious and supportive and compassionate creative romantic energy, but at the same time
Mhm.
we have Mars and Virgo opposing Saturn and Pisces.
Yeah, so okay, normally I would be like concerned, but I feel like they mitigate each other.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because like Mars is in an earth sign and Saturn is in a water sign. I
Mm-hmm.
feel like the edges are a little more softer than if it was like, something crazy. Like last year or 2021, I remember there was a Mars in Leo opposing Saturn in Aquarius. And I
Mm-hmm.
remember that being really hard and really crunchy. But I feel like this one, you can use it in a way where it's more like focused and beneficial. I don't know.
Yes.
And I want to hear your side of it because I'm optimistic.
No, I think that in the most positive expression of these two planets meeting up would be to tunnel vision your focus on a goal or project and to patiently work for, move forward. Um, but anytime Mars and Saturn are in a hard aspect with one another, it feels very much like push and pull energy, rock between a hard place, putting the gas pedal on and the brakes on at the same exact time. Mars wants to go forward, Saturn wants to stop. So it can feel frustrating, challenging, like circumstances outside of your control are holding you back on your progress. I also think our will and our egos can get bruised today. When Mars and Saturn are across the sky like that. But like you said, with the Sun Neptune energy at play, I do think there's the possibility for mitigation. And I think it's just about being conscious that both of these archetypal energies will come up throughout the day. And I think channeling any frustration proactively, like this would be a day where I'll tell July 20th in the morning, first thing I'm going to do is scream into my pillow. Even if I feel like a pleasant little pee, I'm going to scream at the top of my lungs into a pillow. And maybe I'll go into my garage and hit a punching bag just to proactively work with frustration and anger and release it from my physical being. This is a great day to do that. And I think that that will kind of like temper anything else that plays out.
I love that. That's great advice.
Mm.
Okay. July 21st, the sun in Cancer will oppose Pluto in Capricorn.
Okay. Okay. So we want to go back to, was it, yes, July 10th,
Hmm.
and think about what was unfolding in our lives around that time, because that's when Mercury was opposite Pluto.
Hmm.
Um, and again, it's like the story arc continues here. When the sun is involved and the sun is representative of our ego and it's across the sky from Pluto, this is more ego power struggles, like relationship dynamic imbalances, being forced to confront your fears, your relationship with control, um, power, jealousy, obsessions, fixations. But it can also feel like a full moon moment and like a moment of catharsis and being powerful or influential, I think.
Hmm. Yeah, I definitely think this is again kind of similar to what was it, the new moon?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
The new moon vibes where you're seeing that Pluto across the sky and it's like, oh crap, I thought I figured this out.
Yes.
uh,
Yes.
and you're back and you're staring at me, and this time it's the sun, so something is being illuminated, like you said, the full moon moment where when you have something opposing the sun, it's like there it is in your face. And gosh, with Cancer season, I feel like those oppositions to Pluto, it's like our final, maybe not our final because it's going to come back, you know, through the degrees of Capricorn, but yeah, I think it's going to be another opportunity. I'll say it that way.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then the main event of July, what you've been waiting for, everyone. July 22nd. Venus goes retrograde in the fixed fire sign of Leo.
Spicy, spicy.
Spicy, spicy. Venus retrograde. Venus will be retrograde from July 22nd through September 3rd. The degrees that it will be traveling, it will start at 28 degrees Leo when it stations retrograde, and it will backpedal all the way to 12 degrees. And it will station direct on September 3rd, and make a lot of important connections along the way.
Yes. So Venus's cycle is 8 years. So think back to 2015 and then 2007
Mm-hmm.
and then 1999 if you're old enough for similar topics. And I like to think of this as like another chapter in your Venus and Leo story.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I obviously it's going to have different players and make different aspects which will flavor it differently, but I do think it's interesting that um, what was it? This we spoke about this the summer of 2015 when Venus was in Leo and it was co-present with Jupiter. That was when same-sex marriage was legalized in the
Yep.
United States, and it was also um, the sun. I mean, Jupiter was conjunct Juno, which we spoke about.
Mm-hmm.
Juno is is the asteroid of commitments and marriage. And it was a nodal reversal because the North Node was in Libra.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And this all took place during the retrograde period, which is like, you know, almost kind of like righting our wrongs, like redirecting, like we're getting it right this time, you know. Um, I hope that there are more positive developments for the queer community during this retrograde and their rights. I think also having um, the South Node in Libra, to me, I was thinking maybe like a release of outdated relationship, um, blockages or so. I hope that we see some similar positive growth and movement, especially for trans people and just humans to love humans and to self express how they want to self express authentically.
Exactly. I just also noticed that this, when the chart, when Venus goes retrograde, it will be conjunct Lilith because Lilith will also be in Leo. And
Holy
Lilith,
smokes.
Black Moon Lilith was Adam's first wife, and our mutual friend Adama is a like Lilith
Everything.
everything. So
Encyclopedia.
go check her out,
Mhm.
Adama Cisse. But basically, Black Moon Lilith was Adam's first wife, and she did not want to be inferior to him. She wanted to be an equal partner. And Adam was like, fuck no, like a wife is second class citizen. So she was like, bye, peace. And so they like banished her from the Garden of Eden, which is like very Taurus, right?
Mhm.
And then they like made her into a demon and like this horrible, horrible, like whatever she was, like a demon. And I think that's very telling for this Venus retrograde in Leo because personally, again, I might be projecting because I am a woman in 2023. I feel like it's finding our worth and really like the retrograde time is remembering our value outside of the patriarchy and outside of the male gaze personally.
I think it's, yeah, finding empowerment by owning your shame and fear and guilt too.
Ooh, yes.
Like, make that your superpower. What you feel shameful and fearful of might be your secret spark. And society is projecting one thing, but when you own that, you can reclaim your power.
Mm. because Venus, people with Venus retrogrades in their chart go against the grain of Venusian topics. Let's just say being in the sign of Leo, to me, Leo is about like how you shine and also beauty and our like physical features. And so if we're in a Venus retrograde in this sign, it's like also what value do we give ourselves when
Mm-hmm.
it's when we're just looking out at the outside, but really Leo rules the heart. It's really about our authenticity and who we are beyond beauty standards.
Yes. Um, can I make some basic bitch comments about beauty during Venus retrograde? Um, this is not the time to try out a new haircut, to cover yourself in tattoos, to do a drastic makeover. You can think about it, you can get ideas, you can find inspiration. But this isn't the ideal time. Like last time Venus was retrograde, I decided to chop my own bangs and it was horrific. It was literally, and I knew that. I was a practicing astrologer, and that's just a simple manifestation. So this isn't the time to make outwardly big changes with your physical appearance, but to kind of think about once Venus stations direct, that is the time to kind of pounce. Got my pun there. Um, and something else that I've just started thinking about within the past couple of days is Venus retrograde is an excellent time to get into thrift store shopping,
Mm.
recycle, reuse, and yeah, go play in your wardrobe. Some of the pieces that you've held on to for years, but you never wear, style them. Like it's a fun time to play around with style that way. And yeah.
During the retrograde,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not like because we're right now we're in the shadow.
Yeah.
So right now in the shadow, you would you say it's okay to do some beauty stuff, but during the retrograde not?
I'm too paranoid just from my messed up bangs. So I probably will not be doing that, but I think it's okay. It's not going to be the end of the world. Hair grows back, or whatever. It's not the end of the world. But um I I want to get like a massive chest tattoo and like maybe even a throat tattoo, and I'm waiting until after September.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's probably a good move, being a Leo rising.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What
and
if I
I
get the wrong animal?
right.
Yeah.
I do think it's significant which house it's transiting for
Yes.
everybody personally, because for me, it's always been, I looked back at 2015, what I was doing during this Venus retrograde, and I was traveling throughout Europe with my friends, my girlfriends, like, hello, can
Oh
it
my
get
God.
more Venus and Leo retrograde?
Yes.
And then in 2000 and what was it, seven,
7.
I
Hmm.
moved back from San Diego from grad school during the retrograde. Um, and that was also like a very ninth house, like graduating from higher education kind of thing.
Oh.
So for me, it's always about either traveling, ninth house, foreign lands, or publishing or studying. So
Hmm.
hopefully it means that this year I will be going somewhere abroad. And I also looked at like my Venus lines where they are and maybe returning back to some of those places.
Oh,
Um,
cute.
so, for example, and other people, it can be something so much more fun than that. Like maybe it's transiting through your 10th house and you're having a big career moment or something.
Hmm. Yeah. I can't remember July 2015 what was going on in my life around that time, but I remember the July 2007. I was a terror. It was horrific.
Right?
Um I was really exploring Venus and relationships at that time, let's just say.
Ooh,
Yes.
that's exciting.
Yes. Um so it, like Laura said, it just depends on where it's happening in your charts.
Mm-hmm.
And I think what's interesting is later the same day, the sun is going to enter Leo. So that's kind of amazing because then Venus retrograde is just answering to the sun in Leo, which is in domicile and it has strength. And so that helps a little bit.
Yeah. Also, I do want to say that not all, like, I'm starting to read about Venus and the etymology of Venus from Alice, oh my God, Alice Sparkly Cat's book, Post-Colonial Astrology, and Venus is has a duality to it. It is like the daytime expression is like a warrior and the nighttime expression is super cozy and cute. So Venus goes from a nighttime like super cozy cute romantic Venus to then when it goes turns around in its retrograde to a morning star Venus, which is more warrior like and a little bit more. So I do have to say it's not all going to be cute sometimes.
No,
She's
no, no, no.
bite to her.
I think that I'm so glad you mentioned that because it reminds me that um two Venus retrogrades ago was May 2020 when during
George
George
Floyd.
Floyd,
Yeah.
Black Lives Matter.
Mhm.
Um, and they are generally, they take place. Venus is the planet of harmony and justice. And they can bring periods of intense discord, injustice, and just intensity. And to kind of funnel that into our personal lives, I'm in a Venus ruled year right now. And yeah, some things have been like super cute, but at the same time, I've also never dealt with so much competition, jealousy, like projections, so that will also probably come up as well.
Yes. Thank you for reminding me. If you're in a Venus perfection year, like we both are, the retrograde will impact you more because it's like magnified. And I was going to bring up the George Floyd thing because you reminded me because the Venus retrogrades make a star point. So there's like it makes a pentagram in the sky. So there's like five Venus cycles. So there's one in Leo, which we are in now. There's one in Scorpio, Capricorn, which we just had last year, Aries. I don't remember when the Aries one was, but then we had the Gemini one in 2020, and they all happen every 2 years. But within each star point, it's 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
So look at where you have Leo, Scorpio, Capricorn, Aries, and Gemini because you can see the cycles that Venus brings you. And I'm telling you, that May Venus retrograde in 2020 was like the nastiest one I've ever experienced.
Mm-hmm.
Personally, too. Yeah, like what you were saying, because it was at an angle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So it's not all fun and games, but our Leo house will get a glow up come September and we'll have walked through the fire.
Yes, for sure. And there's so much more to say about Venus in Leo and retrograde coming up next month.
Yeah. I'm sure we're gonna be talking about it more on our show.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, shall we go to July 23rd?
Yes.
Mercury in Leo square Uranus in Taurus.
So that's taking place at 22 degrees. So if you have fixed signs, pay attention. Between 15 and 27 degrees, you'll feel that the most intensely. And it's also going to echo what took place on July 2nd and June 26th because Mars and Venus traced over this square with Uranus. So this is kind of like learning more information. About that storyline or taking action or communicating something that may shock and surprise others. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just another like
Chaotic day.
impact here. Another
Yes.
I think last month we recommended for the Mars square Uranus not to get like cosmetic procedures, and
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people took our advice
Mm-hmm.
because somebody that I know wanted to get Botox, but then she listened to our episode and she's like, never mind. I do think like Mercury square Uranus is like a, be careful with car accidents.
Mm-hmm.
Just to put it out there, I don't want to like fear monger, but with these like squares, you just never know.
But
It's
it's
just
helpful in the sense of like, don't drive fast, like you
yeah,
can avoid
never.
having a car accident, like don't text while you're driving, like be proactive if you're in the car and transporting that day. It doesn't mean you're going to get in an accident, but it's just something to like be extra safe that day.
Yes,
Um, what I
exactly.
think is even more interesting about this aspect and July 23rd is this is the day that Pluto in Capricorn goes exact square the North Node and the South Node. So this is impacting the collective. There is shocking information that is revealed. There are, Uranus is the planet of upheaval and unexpected events, earthquakes, natural disasters, um, and Pluto at the bendings, which is when it's square the nodes, has been historically the the only one I can think of is like such a fear-mongering example, but the one of the times that Pluto in recent history formed a square to the nodes was the start of World War II, I think.
Mhm.
So not to say that we're headed for World War III under this transit, but some major world news and dynamics will be at play, no doubt.
Yes. There are also, like you mentioned, the 29th degree is the anaretic degree. So Aries, Libra, Capricorn, cardinal signs being at 29 degrees, it's like, hello.
And it's
uh, yeah.
It's going to teleport us back to April because we had a solar eclipse in Aries at 29 degrees. So now the node is tracing over that actual eclipse point for the first time. So um, some of those themes will come up as well.
It totally, totally is. When I think about, do you have anything at your bendings? I love that it's called that, by the way.
I know. I don't No, I don't think so. No. But
Um,
you're our resident bending queen.
I
Tell
have
us.
Saturn at the bendings,
Yeah.
another malefic, thank you. And I really like try to dig up a lot of information about it because just from my own like personal healing journey and from an evolutionary standpoint, they really look at the nodes and like what's around the nodes. I don't know if anybody listening to this has learned anything about evolutionary astrology, but it's basically like the nodes are our collective soul growth and what we're transforming and transmuting and integrating by harmonizing the polarities. And it just reminds me of like Pluto in general is a planet. We talk about it so much here because, well, Stephanie just got a Pluto tattoo.
Check it out. Check it out on Instagram.
Yeah. And we kind of bonded over Pluto and how significant Pluto being in our chart has been and has continued to be. And for me, Pluto is all about sacrificing something that you're never going to get back. It's like that. I don't know if you've ever watched The Avengers, where they have to sacrifice a soul to get the soul stone, the infinity stone. That's
Mm.
kind of like what Pluto reminds me of. It's like you have to sacrifice a soul to get a soul. I know that sounds very dramatic, but that's very Plutonian. Um, but basically, it also reminds me of diving, like scuba diving, when you're ascending and you have to stop at each safety stop so that you literally don't get the bends. And the bends is when like your body can't stand the pressure. So it's like very bad for your lungs, and it's literally called the bends. So
Oh,
I just think that Pluto squaring the nodes is like something that us individually and collectively still have to integrate the lessons of Pluto that we haven't yet. And
yeah.
each of us, it's going to be something different, right? Based on our own natal chart, and then collectively, what we still have not integrated, or even like gone, even given the first sacrifice, right? Because everybody's on their own journey. Some people are more aware than others. But I wanted to offer that because maybe you don't know, but I've been going through a really rough Pluto transit the last couple years. And it very much feels like, or has felt like, it took a part of me that I had to sacrifice my money, had to sacrifice safety, had to sacrifice having like a steady paycheck in order for me to find my real worth and value outside of capitalism, basically. And
Mm-hmm.
that was a really hard journey because there were so many times when I wanted to like throw in the towel and say, I'm just going to work for the man and get a paycheck every month. But I decided not to. I decided to sacrifice that feeling of safety and security. And now with this in the bends, it really does feel like that final test. Have I
Yeah.
integrated it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to be a powerful moment personally and especially collectively and for the US because our natal Pluto, um, I don't remember, is it at 28 degrees, 29 degrees, something like this? Yeah.
20.
So 27. Okay. So we're getting lit the fuck up. That's the technical term.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, sorry to take so long on that, but it is a
it's a big one.
big one.
Yeah.
So we'll report back in
Yeah.
August
Yeah.
how that all went down. But July 27th, Mercury in Leo conjunct Venus in
Oh,
Leo. South
thank
Node.
fucking every, god and goddess and creature. Yes. Thank goodness. Oh my gosh. I'm so ready for it.
How do you really feel?
I feel like leading up to this point, July is just like bam, bam, slapping us left and right. And then this is a very sweet, sweet and exciting, celebratory, connective. I don't even know if that's a word, but like a beautiful moment.
Hmm. I agree. It's like commiserating energy.
Mm-hmm. Great time to collaborate with others and come up with like really exciting ideas, social energy, great time to go on a date. This is the time to shoot your shot. Like if you've been sitting on a pitch email or like nervous to approach someone about something, share your idea because literally luck is on your side.
I was gonna say Venus is in retrograde, so like an X factor might come back.
Yes, 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 yes. Oh, good point. Okay, yeah, definitely probably hearing from exes around here. And to your point, if you do shoot your shot, be patient because it's likely it will take time because of the retrograde. So you may not hear back right away, but just trust that this is a beautiful day to initiate.
I personally wouldn't commit to anybody until Venus goes direct, so I think it's a fun time to, you know, play the field a little.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And then we wrap up July. Our last major aspect is July 28th, and Mercury enters Virgo. So it's in domicile. Mercury's getting some strength. So the Mercury and Gemini houses in your chart, things are going to start to move more smoothly. You can think back to July 10th when Mars entered Virgo, what was going on around then. You're finding out more news about those topics now, information. Um, and you're also getting clues into your Mercury retrograde story.
Fun times. But I just love when Mercury is in Virgo. I
It's
love it.
cute.
I love it even more than Gemini. It feels more like grounded.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And well, there's no time to there. Virgo doesn't waste time. It's precise with its action and its thoughts, and yeah.
Exactly. But that is July, everybody. And we wish you all the luck and love and blessings. And remember that these are just our personal forecasts. But remember to have a journal out and keep track of all the transits and how you're embodying them and living through them in the moment and report back to us.
Yes, let us know in the comments if you're watching on YouTube. How did some of these energies play out for you? What transit are you most excited about? If you're listening on our podcast, shoot us an email, let us know, and maybe we'll share some of your stories.
Okay, see you in August.
Bye.